What's up? I'm gonna get this camera adjusted real quick. All right, seems like it wants to stay. All right, so we're talking about Mars in retrograde. This is a retrograde that only occurs once every 2 years, so it's pretty significant. I actually want to read a beautiful quote that I read on Twitter about this. Guess I might as well jump right into that actually. So, AA Alomi on Twitter says, Mars was the planet medieval astrologers were the most anxious about, and its retrograde was way more significant than other retrogrades. So I resonate with that a lot because, for example, Mercury goes retrograde like all the time, it seems, right? Like 3 times a year. Venus retrograde once a year. But Mars is pretty significant. I think a lot of people have Mars twisted and a little bit misunderstood. Sometimes when people have afflicted Mars or they don't have a strong Mars, that's usually when you could see people who are the most aggressive or kind of seem like they have that energy the most, because Mars actually rules modesty. So you can see a person with a strong Mars, with a healthy Mars, who has good modesty, you know. Um, but of course, we know it's the god of war. We know that it rules, that Mars rules Aries, Mars rules Scorpio. So these could be. It has a vicious nature. There's no way around that. But it has modesty too, and it's all about will, right? So some key dates. So the Mars retrograde began on December 7th. And I feel like ever since that time, I'm sure everyone has been feeling it. I know I've noticed it. If you go out in public a lot, you'll see it within a lot of other people. And in Vedic astrology, because we're discussing Jyotish, Vedic astrology here, um, in Vedic astrology, Mars rules the blood. So a key point actually is that I know it's been a thing in my life, and leaving the comments of this has been coming up with you guys, but blood issues could be coming up, if not for you, for other people. So that's a key point in all of this. And so on January 20th, around January 20th, I think also the 21st perhaps, um, Mars is going to move. So this Mars retrograde, first of all, is taking place in Gemini Cancer. So right now we're still in Mars in Cancer, which is the debilitated sign. But Master Astrologer actually dropped a hidden tip that was saying that Mars doesn't debilitate, actually. So if that's the case, when Mars is retrograding, it can actually act like the polar sign. So Mars exalts in Capricorn. So Mars in Cancer retrograding can actually act like Capricorn. So we might be working extra hard. It's like past 2 in the morning. I've been wanting to do this video for a while, and I figured might as well do it tonight. I really just did. It's the will, So this is a Mars in retrograde moment for myself because I didn't want to let the moment pass, and I figured if I slept on it, another day might pass, another excuse, whatever. So I had to just get this video out here. It's not going to be that long. But yeah, so Mars retrograde on the 20, and so on the 21st, it's going to move out of Cancer and back into Gemini, the sexual sign. A lot of people get it twisted, and they think, oh, like Scorpio rules sex, but like Scorpio is the private parts. It's like, okay, but Scorpio is more of sex in the spiritual aspect of what that represents. Um, and but whereas like Gemini is like the blatant sexual sign. Not to be childish about the knowledge, it's not saying like, oh, because you're a Gemini or you got Gemini placements, you're immediately a sexual person. It can mean that, very much so, especially when Gemini aspects roll around, So Mars at the foundation of it all is just energy, right? So energy in the sexual sign, And I heard someone the other day say that Mars rules celibacy. So I don't know if my other brothers have been on that path, right? And Mars rules the blood. And to get on a health topic too, Venus rules semen. Shukra actually translates to semen from Hindi or Sanskrit to English. But Mars, if you know anything about the body, blood is concentrated blood technically is semen in a sense. So right now it could be a good time to be celibate if you're not, or you might just notice that's been a thing for you. So it can represent itself in a lot of ways. That's where I'm going with this. So on January 21st, Mars comes back out of Cancer and moves back into Gemini. And so around May of 2024, we were also dealing with May, June, I believe, around that time, somewhere around May is when we were dealing with the Mars and Gemini. May, June, somewhere around the spring, summer. Don't quote me on it entirely, but yes, somewhere around the spring or summer, we were dealing with Mars in Gemini at that time. So you can reference back to that time and see what was going on. You might be revisiting those people or maybe those actions that you took around that time. So interesting stuff. And then not until February 25th that Mars goes direct again. And we're not coming out of this Gemini Cancer combination dealing with Mars up until around June. Not until June does Mars move forward into Leo, right? Which is a good place for Mars. So it's been an interesting time. Mars rules men in birth chart. Like if in a man's chart, you look at the Mars sign, and that can show you how that man deals with other men. So there's a big signification about men and Mars in general. So this is definitely affecting men as a whole, and we're not separate on this earth, right? So it's not like we're just living with men. So if men are being affected, they're going to affect their wives, their girlfriends, the women who they talk to. So yeah, men are definitely going through it in an interesting way. To me, on a spiritual sense, this is a time where we're either going to, it's a crash and burn type of retrograde. It's a sink or swim type of retrograde. If I'm not, let me rephrase that. It's a sink or swim, right? It can be crash and burn. This is a time where people are either going to get worse or they're going to get better. And if they're getting better, it's out of sheer discipline, straight up. So, and if they're getting worse, it's just because they're feeding the anger. It's because they're just too into, they're too in depth with their feelings, or too caught up in other people and stuff like that. That's the thing about astrology, is that it always shows the spiritual aspects of what's already going on in our lives, right? It's just, I always say that astrology doesn't change anything. It just shows, it's for people who like the knowledge. It's for people who like the awareness. It's not going to change anything. It's not going to make your life necessarily easier, but having the knowledge and applying it correctly can help you navigate better. But you're never going to avoid the problems. You're never going to avoid the afflictions. Some people may disagree, but as a down to earth human, I don't think that I'm soaring above the troubles of the world just because I have astrological information. I don't think that's really the case for anyone. Honestly, it's gonna show up in your life. It's gonna pop up in your life. Things are gonna happen. As long as you know, then it's just better. It's just more peace. It just takes that weight off your shoulders. Because if a person doesn't know it's Mars retrograde, and they're just like, God damn, everybody is just angry. Everybody's just mean. I've been frustrated. Oh shit. Literally right as I said that, it's crazy. And trying to prop this up, I have it propped up on something that's not the most secure. But let's see. Hopefully it stays. See, like I said, this video is not gonna be that long. I'm still a student myself. Not claiming to be a entire expert about all this stuff. I've been studying astrology for a long time. I've been studying astrology for probably nearly 10 years, I would say, Western for the most part. And in the last 3, maybe 4 years, I would say 1 year I was kind of teetering and trying to do both, maybe for a year and a half. But for the last 3 years, for sure, I've been aware that Jyotish is not an option, it's astrology. It is the truth, totally. And if you don't know that, just look into it. There's no reason to be prideful about being right or sticking to one form or one system. Don't believe me, check it for yourself, do the math, do the results, understand the stuff for yourself, and you'll see it speaks measures. It's over 5,000 years old, as I've been told. And like I said in the previous video, it's the heirloom, right, of this knowledge. It truly is. I mean, we were star watchers at one point. I mean, I can recall timelines where life was like truly peaceful and like there was nothing but time, right? So like, of course we would figure things out. Of course we would observe things over time, like, whenever the moon is full and the babies are born, child comes out like this. You know what I mean? Whenever they're born at this time of the year, child is like this. You know what I mean? It's just psychology, right? So key dates, December 7th, which already passed. That's when this retrograde began. And then January 20th is when it goes back into the other sign from Cancer to Gemini. And we're not going to be, and then the retrograde ends on February 25th, around that time. We're not going to be moving forward until around June 8th. Around June 8th, around that time, that's when Mars finally gets out of Cancer, after from being direct into. So it's like we're dealing with this energy for a long time. And I feel like what it's calling in is emotion and sexuality, right? Because Cancer is emotional connectedness, and Gemini is the sexual sign. If you know the Hindi and like the mythology and the Sanskrit behind the Jyotish, which is very helpful to know, Mathuna, Gemini, like translates to sex, right? So yeah, it's it can be innocent, but at the same time, it's malefic, right? Mars is malefic. So we got to get stuff out of our system to really push forward, like as a world, as a people, as a society, right? Because although there are certain planets that rule, like for example, Moon is the planet of the public. Moon rules the people, right? But at the same time, all the planets rule society in some way, shape, or form, because they're all representing that. Like Saturn is the servant. That's still someone in society. So all the planets are us, right? And another thing to add too is that it could be a mistake. I'll be confident and bold enough to say it is a mistake in astrology to consider your placements as accessories. In Jyotish, you learn that you are your placements. So this could be a positive thing actually for people who cling on to their Western signs. Like for example, like if you are an Aries sun in Western, but then you're actually a Pisces sun in Eastern, but you have Mars in Aries, then you're still in Aries, actually, right? So another thing to think about. So some key points in this is your blood. Watch your blood, because in Vedic astrology, Mars rules the blood. You could see celibacy playing out around this time, or not. Especially when Mars goes back into Gemini, you might see it being a little bit more of a sexual time. Who knows? You know what I mean? Hopefully it's for the better. You know what I mean? Hopefully it's not aggressive, right? Because at the end of the day, or at the foundation of it, Mars is just energy. So it gets misconstrued that Mars is about is about anger, when Mars also rules modesty. So it's only when it's afflicted that that's what it comes out to, right? So Moon doesn't exactly do that, right? You might just be more emotional. You might want to cry or something like that when you have like the afflictions going on. But with Mars, yes, it can turn into aggression. It can turn into fighting. It can turn into war. It's about that. These are necessary components at some point in our world. We do need to have will. We do need to protect things. Mars is a protector in a lot of ways. My extra light just went out. But yeah, I think I went a little bit past what I was trying to go for. Um, so that's pretty much it. What I'm gonna wrap it up on. And yeah, I'm just pushing these videos out as much as I can, honestly. So they might be rough draft, but these are all on the fly because I don't have storage on my phone. So until I get storage on my phone, I'm gonna do these live, and so everything's off the dome, you know. So perhaps I could do a part two to this if there's more to say, or I want to do it in a more structured way. But this is just entirely just what I got to say on the fly. I think a Mars retrograde video is necessary to talk about. Um, and that's pretty much it with it too. So put the dates out there, representations of Mars. Look at where Mars falls in your chart. Um, and I got other topics that I want to talk about that don't have to do with transits, that are just on astrology alone. So yeah, thank you guys for tuning in, and look forward to another video very soon. So peace. Thank you.